Welcome, dear listeners, to another bone-chilling episode of Unveiling Nightmares. I'm your host, C.A. Bainham, and today we have a special guest with us. Right, so our guest today is none other than Chisto Healy, author of The Gateway in Apartment 8. So welcome to the show.
Hi.
How are you today?
Doing well, I guess.
That's good. Okay, so tell me a little about yourself.
Wow, I wouldn't know where to begin. I write constantly. Writing is my sanity. So, if I'm not writing, I'm in a dark place. So I try to write all the time. And because of that, I have, insane productivity.
Yeah.
I've put out, I think, 14 books since April of this year. So
You're doing quite well then.
Other than that, my main focus in life is being a dad. And that's both things are something I've wanted to do since I was a little kid. So I'm making good on childhood dreams over here.
That's good. So what inspired you to write in the horror genre?
Oh, gosh. I've loved horror my entire life. I think some people are just made for it.
Yeah.
My son, he just turned 4 and he's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
He loves zombies and skeletons and witches, and he's just all into scary things, spooky things. I think it's just ingrained in some people. And for me, it was I was reading normal kids' books, and my brother we had bunk beds, and he leaned over the top and took away my children's book and put a Dean Koontz book in my hand.
Yeah.
And said, read this, it's better. And at the back then, Dean Koontz was horror.
Yeah, it was.
And it was pretty dark material, and I loved it. I was like, oh yeah, more of this. Also, I blame my mom because she kind of traumatized me at the movie theater when I was very little. My dad had taken the family to see some war movie, and there was some torture scene in it. I don't remember anything about that movie at all, but my mom felt like it was too much. So she got mad and took us out of that theater and into the next theater, which was showing the movie Dreamscape.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a villain who goes into people's dreams and he turns into like a serpent monster to kill them in their subconscious. And yeah, I was really traumatized by that. So that definitely opened the horror gateway.
So tell me about your books without giving any spoilers.
The Gateway in Apartment 8 is the second book in the Sunnycrest Apartments series. It's an idea that I came up with a long time ago. Actually, I have to credit my ex, Christina, because she really helped me come up with it, and we would sit up talking about it.
Yeah. And
back then it was just an idea, but I wanted to make an anthology series of a haunted apartment building in New York where every apartment has their own ghost story.
Yeah.
And each book is completely different than the rest, but all the side characters, the people that work in the building itself, the neighbors, carry on as an ongoing story through all the books.
Yeah.
And then I added a psychiatrist who people from Sunnycrest keep coming to him, and there's got to be a reason the building is calling to him. So his story carries on throughout the books as well.
Yeah.
So the books are standalone, but there's a lot to get out of it if you read the series. And, you know, I'll be writing book 3, hopefully in 2024. But Apartment 8 specifically is about a girl whose closet is a gateway to 1987, where there was a serial killer who wasn't caught, who was killing people in their own apartments.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know if what the person wants who is reaching to her through her closet, or if they're good or bad, or how to help them, or what she should do about it. And she's just a college student on very low income, trying to make it. So she goes to the psychiatrist for help, and then meets some colorful friends along the way. And then things get really dark and creepy. So
fantastic. So can you tell us about the first horror story that you ever wrote?
That I ever wrote?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Probably not. There are notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks somewhere. Some of them have been destroyed over time, but that had handwritten stories from when I was a kid. I always wanted to write, and I immediately started trying to as soon as I got into reading, really. So as soon as I got into reading darker stuff, my writing went that way. In fact, my mother was notified by school, and they were concerned about the dark nature of the material I was writing, and creative writing assignments and stuff in school. And she was like, "That's just who he is. He likes this creepy, scary stuff. He doesn't mean it." But all the way through school, it caused drama and problems. It's not easy to grow up a child horror writer. The first book I ever wrote, it was a book I hand wrote in high school. I was in my junior year of high school, and I was writing it chapter by chapter, and then just giving it to people to read, and they were passing it all around school, students, teachers, faculty.
Yeah.
And then I would write the next chapter, but it involved time travel because I was really into Lightning by Dean Koontz.
Yeah.
And I wanted to incorporate time travel into my own story. And then I painted myself in a corner with paradoxes, and I was like, I can't finish it. And then everybody got really mad at me, and I thought they were going to beat me up. But that was the first one. I did get, about 300 handwritten pages into it before I quit. And then I wrote a book called Red Pine, which I still want to eventually redo.
Yeah.
And I printed out every single page on a word processor, which is crazy because it would print it out like a typewriter. So it took forever to print out an entire novel. And then I carried that around with me, and I just let people read it. And then there was a point where I was homeless, and I had that book printed out in my duffel bag. It was like one of the only things I had.
Yeah.
And so that was the first actual fully completed, typed out novel I ever wrote. And I still have it. So I need to type it up again and rework it, I'm sure, because, I'm a much better writer than I was all those years ago.
I suppose you've got more ideas as well to add to it.
Oh, yeah. And then the first book I actually published was actually semi-autobiographical, and it was a kind of a fiction story based on a traumatic experience I had when I was younger. So I didn't actually my first horror book that came out was the first book in the Sunnycrest series, though I had almost 300 short stories published in anthologies and websites and everything else. So,
Brilliant. So, which authors have influenced you the most?
Oh man. Well, going back, I will start with the ones that really got me into horror when I was a kid, which was, of course, Dean Koontz, which I feel like he kind of left horror, but his old stuff was really horrific and in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Robert R. McCammon, who I don't think anything he's written isn't brilliant. Clive Barker, who showed me just how dark things could get.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if that man, his imagination will never be topped in my mind. And then one that doesn't get talked about enough is Simon Clarke. He's a British horror writer, and pretty much everything he's ever done is, pure genius in my mind. He wrote this book called Vampiric, which was the beginning of a series, and Blood Crazy and Darkness and all these, this Rage of Echoes, like just all these amazing books. And his prose was so beautiful that it felt like you were reading literature and then being horrified at the same time. Like, to me, that's that's way beyond what I can do. But the amazing thing about Simon is, I wrote to people trying to get some advice and figure out how to do this thing. And he's the one that actually wrote back and kind of took me under his wing. Like, he was giving me advice. He let me know when a publisher had an open call. He did a first page test on my books, and when I hit hard spots, not just with writing but with life in general, he was there for me. And I was just so amazed and just super grateful at what an incredible human he was, not just an author.
Yeah.
And then the first book in the Sunnycrest series, he actually wrote the blurb for the cover. So that was like a huge shining moment for me, to have like one of the guys that made me want to write horror read my book and put a blurb on the cover. So
yeah, it's always nice to have someone who's there to help you along the way, isn't it, really?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't be, none of this would exist. All the books I put out this year, Apartment 8 and all the others, wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that man. Because I was doing things the hard way, the long way, and I was really discouraged and going through a lot of really hard regular life stuff.
Yeah.
And it was his encouragement and belief in me that really got me over the hump. So I owe him endlessly
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then there's, of course, a ton of indie authors who have supported me and are brilliant writers too. Like Michael Collins or Mick Collins and Erica Summers and Ruth Ann Jagg and Shelley Jarvis and Natalie Brown and of course David Jack Fletcher and the whole Slash It crew.
Yeah.
Just David Green was a huge help to me. He's kind of veered away from horror into fantasy now, but he's an amazing author, an amazing person.
Yeah. So how do you come up with the dark and eerie settings in your stories?
That's a good question. I think more. I don't think I write like most people. I'm not saying, I don't know if that's good or bad. It just is what it is. Because I can't picture things in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I have aphantasia. So I don't do a lot with visuals. For me, it's about experiences.
Yeah.
I try to delve more into what people are feeling and thinking and going through, and then events rather than, details of scenery or anything like that. I am a cinephile, so I watch like a gazillion movies. So I do have that to go off of.
Yeah. I suppose, though, if you are writing from like experiences and things like that, it does give the book a more realistic take.
I hope so. I have had some reviews recently that have said that I really know how to write people, and I feel like maybe that is my strength, and maybe that's because that's where I come from with it, because that's my focus. My focus is on, even as a reader, because when I'm reading someone else's book, I can't picture it. So when they spend, whole paragraphs on the stain on the wall or the desk or the floor or whatever, it means nothing to me. I'm like, okay, I get it. There's a stain there. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then when they get into like what people are feeling and experiencing and talking about and going through, like, then I get really invested. And so I guess I want to write how I want to read.
Yeah.
I think most writers do, but everybody has different tastes. So it's hopefully it's something universal that people can get into. I'm sure it's not 100% for everybody, but I try to.
Yeah. Everybody's got their own different writing style, haven't they? Some people.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Would write like who are like yourselves, who can't visualize, and then they draw from experiences. And then there's others that can visualize, but they can't really draw from experiences. So you've got it either way.
Yeah, for sure. And there's no saying one way is better or worse. It's just different. It's just what you personally are into. It took me a long time in the beginning to realize that like publishers and editors are people with their own personal tastes, and what they're specifically into is not always a reflection of you or your work.
Yeah.
And that you're just not going to mesh with certain people because they're looking for a specific thing. And that's fine, Yeah. So I had some growing up to do in that department, but
yeah, because it can be quite disappointing, can't it, if you don't realise that off the off the bat.
Yeah, because like especially when like there's one like a publisher you really like, so you're like trying to get in, and you keep trying to adjust things and work on things, but like it's just their personal taste, and what they're looking for is not what you do, and that's okay. You know, like there are plenty of places that are. So or nowadays you can self-publish and reach a lot of people. So
Yeah.
you know, there's a million different avenues, so there's no point in taking things to heart.
That's right. So what's the most challenging aspect of writing horror for you?
I guess golly, I don't so you know, questions like that, like my go-to answer is like it's not challenging, and then I feel like a jerk saying that.
You don't care, you just love horror.
I do, and like all forms of it, you know, like I like the psychological horror. I like jump scares. I like creepy slow burns. I like splatterpunk. I like gothic. I like all of it. You know, I just like everything dark and spooky and creepy. And there's a lot of stuff that are considered, you know, thrillers that I think are really horrific and fit into the horror genre. I like all of it, and I like to write all of it. You know, I don't want to be put in a box as a writer either.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. I have a pretty easy time with it. I mean, it feels bad, since like I know there are people who work super hard and struggle, and I don't want to take anything away from that. And I'm just, I guess I was just, it's like a gift and a curse, because I also can't stop my brain, and I am still like coming up with new ideas constantly, even in when I'm supposed to be sleeping and eating and showering. And then my hands can't keep up with my brain. So I'm like actually 4 novels behind because they're in my head.
So do you write multiple novels at the same time, or is it just you stick to one and finish that one? Or
I try to stick to one now, because I used to write so many at once, and then I wouldn't complete them because I'd just be starting the next one and writing 100 pages on that, and then going to the next thing, and I had all these unfinished books. I still have some. So I try to just get one done and then jump on the next. But then I also get involved in projects with other people, and I don't want to make other people wait. So I try to just do it all at once. I'm not a great multitasker, though. I blame ADHD for that. Yeah.
I can imagine it can be quite hard with ADHD to multitask sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I get really easily distracted, and I don't know. I'm kind of a deterrent to myself, so I need to mostly. I either write in the middle of the night when everyone else is sleeping and there's nothing left to do, or I have to actually go out, like to a coffee shop or a bar or something, and where there's no one with me, no one to talk to, and I can just focus on the writing and not get distracted.
Yeah. There's some another author mentioned that they like to go to that they can write better at a coffee shop or somewhere like that. And there's me thinking, you know, I wait until the evening to write because it's quiet and there's nobody around. And there's other people that can actually write where it's like bustling all around them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that goes back to what I was saying before. You know, it's just everybody's different. It's whatever works for them and their experiences. For me, like I really my neurodivergence, my I have sensory issues, and really centered around sound.
Yeah.
So when there's a lot of like noise and background noise, and even if I go out, like I have to go somewhere quiet and usually somewhere gloomy. I don't like bright lights either. Like, so, if it is a place with lots of people talking, like there's one coffee shop I went into one time, and I couldn't write a word because it sounded like a school cafeteria, everyone just talking and talking and talking. And when I do, like, my mind focuses on what everyone else is saying, and I can't hear the words in my own head. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So yeah, same thing. I have to be like somewhere quiet, somewhere dim, which I guess is spooky, right? You want the spooky setting.
So do you ever scare yourself with something that you've written, or like, for say you've written something and you think, damn, can I really get away with that?
That's the best stuff. I feel like that's what I go for. I try to, when I'm writing, to traumatize myself.
Yeah.
And if I do that, if I can feel it, and I feel like scared and sad and a little broken when I'm done writing it, then I feel like this is definitely going to hit the horror community hard. So then I feel like I've done it right. If I don't feel anything, how can I expect anyone else to?
That's right. So how important is the research phase when you're working on a new horror story?
It really depends on what your subject matter is. There are some things I have done a huge ton of research on. And there are some things I've just, let it fly. But I have lately, this year, I've done a lot more researching than I have in the past.
Yeah.
Even on like shorts, like I wrote, I have a series called my Green Rain series. And I have a pinned post on Facebook, and my readers comment a setting and a villain, and then I pull from that to write the books.
Yeah.
And book one of that was Attack of the Killer Crabs.
Yeah.
And I even, I wanted to make sure that the crabs and the type of crabs were found around the location, but I wanted crabs that looked a certain way. So I researched what color and what type of claws they had, and then the inner workings of the crab and how it ate. And, if I want that crab to kill people, I want it to be, realistic. So I ended up doing a lot of research on that, 60-page book. So, and then book two was Oh F Word, a T-Rex. And I didn't really do any research on that one at all. I mean, I did a little bit of research, like a quick research on ski resorts in Colorado that were still open in the summer. But that was about the gist of it. And the rest of it, I just pulled from personal knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
But then book three, which is Watch Out, It's in the Trees. Somebody had requested a demon from Papua New Guinea legend.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know anything about it. So I had to do a lot. And it was actually difficult to research. I couldn't really find much. I had to like really dig deep to find anything on it. So, but that's fun research because then I'm like, I'm learning things, like I'm discovering things.
That's right.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I always say that every day is a learning day, so you always learn something new every single day. So how has the horror genre evolved over the years, in your opinion?
Well, that's, I guess, it's gotten, well, cinematically, it's gotten a lot more digestible. Like, back when I was growing up, horror was really violent, and like, I feel like they got away from that a lot to appeal to more mainstream audiences. But of course, there's still indie films and stuff that goes there. It's just not in the theaters like it used to be. Yeah. Though I haven't seen the new Saw, but I heard it's really gory. So, and then, the Evil Dead movies were super gory, the remakes. I felt like personally, like that's all they were. So I didn't particularly love them, but I don't know. I feel, as far as books and stuff go, I feel like horror has made it more into the limelight. It kind of fell away for a long time, and like you go to the bookstore and you just have to go to the section marked fiction and dig through it for hours trying to find books that fell into the horror category, unless you were looking for specific authors. So now that we're actually getting horror sections again, and as far as indie books go, they cover the whole spectrum. There's even splatterpunk is getting more of an audience now, which is really cool to see that people are becoming more open-minded and realizing that it's just a story and that you can be super gross and have a good time, because I think a lot of that is to be taken lightly. Maybe I'm just demented, but I read a book by Airly Lander, and I was actually like laughing. I was like giggling because she went places with the gore that I never would have even thought of. And it was just so original and unique and terrible that it made me laugh.
So do you have any memorable reactions from readers that stand out to you?
So yeah. So many. I have been so humbled and blessed by reader reactions, especially in the past year or year and a half. There are people who have called for my books to be made into movies. People who have said that I'm on their list of people who they will buy anything that I write.
Yeah.
And, people who have said that I really know how to write people, or that even like Attack of the Killer Crabs, like so many of the reviews were people saying that it's not at all what they expected, and it's a much deeper, moving story. And just anytime anybody is in my corner and I've reached them like that, that moves me. I'm not like someone taking that lightly. That's huge to me. Like every single person who says, oh, well, you've got me, I'm a fan, or this book really touched me, or I went through a similar experience, or anything that moves them or causes them to feel something, or want the next thing written by me. That's all a dream come true to me. Like I could cry over it, honestly.
I mean, that's an amazing reaction, though, to have off a reader, though, isn't it? That they would read anything.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. As when you set out to do this, like that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I want to get people who are like, followers, like, but not like just internet followers, like people who believe in your writing, who like once they read, because I do that, we all do that, once we read something, we're like, wow, I want to know what else they wrote, so you hope from day one, like, that you can do that, and to actually have it happen, even if it's just one person, like 2 people, 5 people, whatever, it's huge. It's huge because you've made an impact, and when you write the next thing, especially if you're worried about it, that there are people who are going to be ready to receive it. And that's huge in helping you or me get there,
Yeah, that's right. So do you have any upcoming projects at all?
Oh, yeah, always. I'm currently actually writing something based on a true story, and it's it's a difficult one to write, but and the one person I let read some of it said that it was more horrific than like any horror. So I'm not sure what genre it actually falls in, but it's going to be heavy emotionally. And then after that, I'm co-writing a book with a friend of mine that I met at a haunted attraction. He was one of the monsters. And that's like a horror comedy we're working on. And then I have book 4 of Green Rain. I'm gonna keep on going with that until I've written what every reader has asked for, and nobody gets left out. And then I have 2 fantasy series that I'm co-writing with Shelley Jarvis, and we have to keep working on those. Book 1 of them recently came out. And then I'm reworking a fantasy novel I had out myself called The Guardian, and it's going to be republished by a different publisher at the beginning of next year. I also reworked one of my first novels that I wrote like 20 years ago, and that's going to be re-released at the beginning of 2024. And then I have to write the next book in the Sunnycrest Apartments series. Yeah, it's just lots. Like I said, my hands can't keep up with my brain.
So you've got an extremely busy year.
Yeah, and hopefully I can keep that pace if life allows it. I was lucky to. I'm lucky to have a partner who supports this venture, and has me in a position where I can write full time. So as long as I still have the time and the ability to do it, I plan on just continuing the same level of output.
Okay, so what advice would you give to aspiring horror writers?
Oh, well, the best advice there is write. Just write. And don't second guess yourself. Don't dwell on it. Don't ponder it. Just write it. And you don't ever expect your first draft to be perfect. Don't stop while you're writing it and try to correct everything and go back and redo the same chapter over and over, or you're never going to get to the end. Just write it. Just write your first draft. Just let it out, and then you can go back. Then you can make corrections. Then you can give it to beta readers and see how people think. And, have a writing group is always good. But mainly just allow yourself to write. Just don't think about it so much. Don't be your own worst enemy. So many writers are. Yeah,
it's the trouble, isn't it? So many writers are their own worst enemy, and they don't end up finishing what they started.
Yeah, and then, or it takes them, 6 years, and then they've put all their eggs in that basket. Rejection is a huge part of this. So, to me, like, the more you're writing and the more you're putting out there, the more success you're going to have. Like, because it's not all going to hit, and you're going to have things that just don't work and things that don't make it. And if that's the only thing you have, because you've been working on it for half your life, then that's going to hit you really, really hard.
Yeah.
But if it's one of 10 stories you wrote this year, it doesn't feel as bad. You can go, okay, that one didn't work, but I've got these ones, and just keep plugging away. And then, like I said earlier, a real important advice to upcoming writers is to realize that what an editor or a publisher thinks is not necessarily a reflection of you. And they are people. They have their own opinions and likes and dislikes, and not to take it all personally or take it to heart, and believe in your story. Because I had a book that I was literally told was trash. I mean, they were really hurtful, and told me it was garbage, and it was unreadable.
Yeah.
And then I brought it to someone else who loved it, and they published it, and then it's gotten great reviews and people have been behind it. So that's just proof. If I took that to heart and gave up on my story, then the readers who loved it and the publisher who loved it wouldn't have it. So believe in yourself, believe in your story, and just go a different avenue. Just find your place. It's out there,
Yeah.
Don't give up.
It's great advice. Well, thank you very much, Chisto, for being on the show. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Nightmarish thoughts. I wish you the best of luck with everything that you've got coming out.
Yeah, you too.
Stay tuned, dear listeners, for more spine-tingling tales and dark discussions in a world of extreme horror. Until next time, remember the nightmares are real, and here on Unveiling Nightmares, we're crafting nightmares one tale at a time.